and officers, anyone who is watching online. I don't know who is at the moment, but welcome to this meeting of the Isle of Wight Council's Harbour Committee. Meeting is being recorded, and for the benefit of anyone listening back onto the recording, I'm Councillor Andrew Garrett. I'm the Vice Chairman of this committee, standing in for Councillor Jordan, who has given his apologies. He is otherwise on council on the mainland, making his way back. Other apologies that we've received apologies from Councillor Oliver, and since the publication of this agenda there has been a change in membership. John Medland, who was a councillor at that time at publication of the agenda, has now resigned from the authority, and council appointed Councillor Love to the position that was available to the unaligned members on this committee. So welcome, Carl, to this meeting. Any other these changes in membership? Okay. I should say there are no planned fire drills, and you know that it is down through the doors, down the stairs, and out through the back. Don't come back in until you're told that you may, and please don't use the lifts if there is a fire alarm. Okay. Second item of business is the minutes of the meeting of Wednesday, the 8th of January, 2025. The only correction I've noticed on those is under the apologies, Councillor PC Wilcox's surname has lost an E. So I have returned an E to her surname. So other than that, are there any other comments upon the accuracy of these minutes? Not, I shall move that they be approved as a true record. Welcome, Councillor Price, by the way. No problem. I'm in the chair, by the way, Matthew, because Phil is on council business. So, otherwise, are you all content with those? Yeah, there are nods. You can't, of course. Well, Matthew and I are voting in favour of those. The other two are not voting. So I'll just quickly initial. Those item 3, members, have you any interests that you wish to declare? If anything occurs to you, of course, just you know the usual form, just shout out and we'll pick that up at that point. Item 4, public question time. We have received none, and there are no members of the public in the gallery. So we're on to item 5 already. So we are on to reviewing and noting the finance reports for both of Newport and Ventnor Harbours. Anything that officers would like to highlight to us? Mr. Minns, yes?
Yes, thank you, Councillor. In terms of Newport, just a couple of small things. Obviously, we're getting near to the end of the financial year, so the performance is likely to be closer to where we end up at the end of the year. We're showing a slight deficit on Newport Harbour of 25,000. I think the two significant points there are we've got a slight overspend on the expenditure, but not much, 2,500. But the big issue is on the income, and that's where the problem emanates from in terms of the leasing income, that we are on that particular line £27,000 to the bad. The reason for that is that obviously we've got a number of tenants down on the harbour, and our biggest building, known as E2, we lost our tenant there, and it was vacant for some time, and that is just about to be relet. So we're always going to get those kind of problems, and it always does cause a problem with forecasting. But the good news is, I suppose, that building has been let to a new tenant. But I think on Newport, that's the only thing that's particularly significant, and it's likely to be that kind of position by the end of the year. Maybe you can expect it to be slightly better, but not a lot. I don't know if anybody's got any questions on
colleagues. Any
Newport
questions on that? You don't do money, Councillor PC Wilcox. Okay. I do numbers, but sometimes not money. Councillor Love, yeah.
So obviously I'm new, so is it always so tight on funding? I mean, for one individual to cause a loss, is that what that is?
Not specifically. Not normally, Councillor Love. it's probably because they are our single biggest tenant.
Right.
It's one of our largest buildings.
Right.
Yeah.
But so normally we would be in deficit, because it sounds like we're really close to the to the threshold.
Yeah, I mean, they're not huge sums of money that come in from the leasing income on the harbour, but because of the nature of that building and the size of that building, it has made quite a difference with it being vacant. I think for about 33,000. Yeah, and it was vacant for about 6 months, wasn't it? The whole year. So it's made a quite significant dent. But in terms of, is it normally like this? No, not really. The last few years we've been roughly on budget, and it's been quite consistent.
Is it possible to say who the new occupier is? Because that's good news that it's.
But if it is signed, for how long, roughly speaking, would that be? So, yeah, for how long would the lease last? Councillor Price?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. Yeah, with regards to that building, I'd mentioned a couple of times at these meetings that a potential tenant had been on my back about it because they were desperate to get in there. And I know that some of the activities they were doing, they'd had to take to the mainland. Is it that tenant that yeah, I thought Jonathan might know. Yeah, so that's good. That's good news, because I think you know, I know, having engaged with them on a number of things. I think Julie Jones Evans did as well. It was sorry, Councillor Julie Jones Evans had you know, that they've got, you know, links to other shipbuilding activities on the island, and to get this activity in Newport possibly long term should be good. So I'm glad to hear that it possibly is that same company. Thank you.
That's fine. I just invite you, Councillor Redrup. Do you have any interest to declare before we move on? But if something does come to mind, just declare it at the appropriate moment. But I thought I'd just check with you. Any other questions on Newport Harbour? Otherwise, we are noting that. Just the finance one at the moment. Yeah, item 5. So otherwise, we will note that and then take Ventnor Harbour. Thank you. Colleagues, any questions on what is a much simpler looking report? Otherwise, we will also note that one. Okay, we'll take it as noted. Thank you. And move to item 6 then, the reports of the Senior Harbour Master, Newport and Ventnor. Mr. Brand?
Thank you. So during December to February, it's been reasonably quiet because of the time of year. We've sent out the renewal letters for the coming year from the 1st of April, and we're beginning to take payments in on them, which is good. We've had a new commercial vessel has come into the harbour and is hoping to be running later after April, which is good that we've got a commercial boat operating again. We've managed to do some repairs to the roadways and around the place. So pothole that I hit every morning has now been filled in, which is nice. Other than that, most things have been going well. Sadly, we've had a bit of problems with fire extinguishers on pontoons and stuff. We've managed to go through 5 of them in 3 weeks. I think it's just people's fascination with dry powder fire extinguishers. So, but we've replaced them and we'll put them back on the pontoons when we've got a bit more people, more visitors. Other than that, it's been sort of reasonably quiet. The main sort of activity that we've had down there isn't marine related. We just seem to be having a larger number of tents and rough sleepers setting up around or on the harbour site, which is very sad, but we're sort of dealing with them when we can, supported by the environment officers and the council as a whole. So other than that, all reasonably quiet at the moment.
Thank you for that. Councillor PC Wilcox. There you go.
Okay, just a couple of things. Really good to see about the salt marsh working and going and starting. That's really good news. I was just going to ask on the harbour equipment, knowing about power washers, on average, how often do you have to replace them, or are they pretty good generally?
I believe that one is 25 years old or so. So they've done very well looking after it. It's a seal between the drive shaft and the pump. So basically the oil is turning into milk. So
I have to say 25 years, mine lasts about a year, 2 years at the
Yeah,
most. So
they do
that's
very well.
pretty well, that one is, Jonathan.
A bit like Trina's broom.
yeah, but we do have a replacement one already that we had a spare just in case.
Yes, can I just say well done on collecting that oil pollution too. I thought that was good to know that they've got those pads. My dad used to work for Vicoma International, so I know all about that because he was on the Emoco Cadiz and all those other ones. On the dangerous occurrences, item 4.6, you were talking about the replacement chain was fitted by the harbour. Do we charge them back then when we do things like that, you know, when people aren't around and you've had to sort of come in on it?
We encourage them not for us to do them. The reason we replaced that one houseboat, we rang him. He is in his 80s and he wasn't on the island at the time, so it was just Malcolm luckily likes paddling in the mud, or if he doesn't, he does it anyway. So we just made sure it was secure. But as a rule, we don't volunteer it. And we do try and get them to get outside contractors, but when it needs to be done, we'll do it.
No, I did think that was very good. I did say, wow, I couldn't believe you'd got 2 electric scooters, tyres and a shopping trolley. But nothing surprises me. And when you did mention about the tents, which is a very sad situation, I have to say, although rather nice place to be, sat down on the river, homeless. So I know that you get in touch with the environment officer. Do they then liaise with the homeless team? That's how it works. Okay, that's lovely.
Yeah. So they tie in everybody else, and when we know that they're no longer being used, they organise them getting cleared as a rule.
That was it from that report. Thank you very much.
Sorry, so on that point, I think we would also, Jonathan quite often would liaise with the police as well with those, because we do have some antisocial behaviour of some of the ones that come down.
Thank you. I think it's a really good report. Well done.
Councillor Redrup. Yeah.
Regarding the tents, are we talking about the one on the footpath between Island Harbour and Newport Harbour?
So far from December, we've had 2 under the flyover by the bargemen.
Right.
We've had 1 by Harbour North on top of the bank. There's the one halfway down by Island Harbour, and there's 2 over the other side near the statue of the mermaid type thing.
I don't generally go
most of them have all been cleared. There is the one halfway down the river still. That's the one that I think you're referring to, and we've still got one on top of the bank. Okay. Oh, and we had one by our store as well. So, but we've only got 2 at the moment, and I don't think either of them. I don't think there's anyone using them, but we haven't managed to confirm that yet.
Well, the one between Newport Harbour and Island Harbour is not being used. That's on my walk every day, virtually.
Yeah.
When I go for my walks.
Malcolm went down 2 weeks ago and tidied all the rubbish up, and he did
Yeah.
say that shopping trolleys are not designed for the cycleway, but he pushed one of them all the way back as well to try and tidy it up.
And that's nice to know that you guys are on top of that, because it is quite unsightly. But no doubt they will come back when we have the festival.
Thank you for that. Any other questions or comments on the Newport report? Otherwise, we'll take that one as noted, if that's okay.
Sorry, could
Um,
I check? Could I just have one more thing? I think
Yes, indeed.
it's probably worth elaborating on what Jonathan mentioned with regard to the new vessel that's visiting the harbour. The Cook's Yard are looking to bring aggregate back in by vessel and not by road. So they bought a boat called the Burt Pryor, which they've now berthed at Newport Harbour, and they're currently working through their plans to bring aggregate back in via the river, which is it's a really good thing for the harbour. We were quite enthusiastic, quite pleased with it when they came to see us.
Councillor Love,
Yeah.
picking up on that.
Just trying to catch up really. At one time we used to store onshore boats, didn't we? Quite a lot along the quay, which I assume had a financial income. Is that not something that's not ever going to happen again, even if we were to stand it back? And why was that? Just to give me because it just seems that we could make potential income there. That's all I'm asking.
The health and safety side of it, really. The minute you put the boats onto the side of the quay, really they needed to be contained within fences. And there's also other providers throughout the river that provide a service to take your boat out of the water, have work done on it, cleaned and that sort of thing, which we haven't really got. It was a bit of a bad accident waiting to happen, I think, with all of the boats chocked up all the way alongside the quay and no separation. But I agree with you though, it's something that it was a nice service to offer and it looked nice. It's good for the harbour,
Yeah.
but
It's just about income I was thinking about, particularly in terms of trying to make it viable. I'm not suggesting we go back to it. I'm just asking the question about, I know it's a few years ago now, but we seem to have quite a lot of space there at the back of the yard. And I just wondered whether there's some value in that, but it's just.
Councillor Redrup again.
Sorry. All the years that I was in the Medina Mariners, we used to have boats taken out at Newport Quay, and I only recall one incident where a Cobra hit another boat. I think it was by the crane operator. But generally speaking, it was quite a good service, although it was tied in to Pacific dates. And I also recall once a gentleman missed that date. But apart from that, in around 100 years or so. It was quite a service. Maybe it could be looked at again with more security added. I don't know. Because people on fixed incomes can't really afford Island Harbour and the ones in Cowes. It is quite expensive. So maybe we are missing a trick. I don't know. Especially the smaller boats. Like little motorboats and things, and that sort of thing. And it did look good on the quayside. I've used it a number of times in the past. Probably won't now because my boat's too big. But yeah, what was the other thing I was going to mention? I forgot. You sidetracked me. I'll come back to it. Yeah, sorry about that.
Councillor Price.
Yeah, I mean, just carrying on for what Councillor Love and Councillor Redrup said. Obviously, I had the other end of it when we had boats stuck on the side. There was one that was there for, well, the Channel Clipper was there for 10 years.
Yeah.
12 years. And then the other boat that will remain nameless was there with someone living on it, and it took us 5 years to get it off, didn't it? Because yeah, so you know, I think the apprehension probably comes from that, doesn't it? I think as much as anything, because it was a real major problem.
Was that the catamaran? where the guy
Well-
died on board.
It was one of few down from that we got stuck with for a long time.
I mean, one of the problems with is the pricing of it is that we're competing against yards that do a discounted lift and storage. And then when they say, oh yeah, I need an engine service. Oh yeah, we can do that. Oh, I needed power wash. Oh yeah, we can do that. And they make their money on the servicing and the jobs they do on the boat when they have it out. With us, it's just a lift and the storage. And I remember one year it got too windy, so we had to bring back the crane for a second day, and it actually cost us money. There isn't the margin in it to make it worthwhile that easily, because we're competing against yards that are doing it as a discounted price.
Sorry, just slightly we are talking about different income brackets. Newport Harbour was for the sort of retired at fixed pay, where the yards are more for silly people like me that use them. There was a marked distinction between prices, not contradicting you, but and in today's market, there is less and less old people willing to do the jobs themselves. They just generally leave the boat sitting on a swing mooring somewhere, don't they, to rot. Rider seems to have not the same anymore, the boat market. But it was good for that income bracket for those people on fixed incomes. It was a good facility, despite the catamaran sitting on there when the guy passed away, and wife, I believe, was having trouble trying to sell it, which is one of the things that Matt's referring to. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, those points are well made and have been heard. Oh, Councillor Love, you want to come back?
Yeah, so again, I think we need to decide what it is that we want to do with, I mean, obviously there's a whole development plan for the harbour, isn't it? So that's, if it ever gets built, that is. But, well, let's hope so, but I mean, but we'll see what happens. I think the point is that as a council, we provide facilities for island people, and the local person, you're right, the complaint down at the other end of the river is that the small individual with the 12-foot or 15 or 20, well, not even 20 foot, but under 20s, we'll say, is being squeezed out of the market completely. So we need to decide, as long as we can, I can say it again if you like. I think the point is whether if we want to support the local individuals and just break even rather than compete, okay? Because for me, it's about providing the facilities to enable island people too, rather than making money, which of course is a difficult thing to do, you know, these days. But it's just, I'm just asking questions as a thought, that's all. Because I think we must remember that that's what we're here to do as a council, is to enable our community to live and work and thrive, not necessarily make money out of them all the time. But, and I know there will be complexities around how it's all set up and insurance and all kinds of things. But I just wondered whether if that was something worth looking at, bearing in mind all the changes that might or might not come, for us to actually put something other than just providing a mooring facility, you know, to make it actually a working port again in a bigger context. Bearing in mind that I've only just come and sat on this committee, so I'm a bit short of all of the detail. Sorry, Chair.
No problem. These are good points. I think that's something that will go into the mix, and obviously we're very close to the new financial year. Officers are always working on those sorts of things, looking both at income generation but also service provision. So I think your points will have been heard. The first pass on that would be a light touch kind of business case, just to examine the figures, but it isn't something we're going to be able to resolve today. But I'll leave it with that the officers have heard the comments of this committee. Otherwise, can we take this report as noted? Thank you, and then move on to the Ventnor report. Mr. Brand again.
Ventnor is similar due to the time of the year. It's working very well. It's quite quiet.
they have managed to increase the number of their permanent boats in there. So in December, they had 9. It went down to 8 because one of them got lifted to get some work done. But they've sat very well through the weather. The seaweed pumping has been going very well up to sort of middle of February, sort of February time, when sadly it had some damage to part of its pump. And then that was added to when its mounting chain failed, and it's now they're having problems accessing it because it's got slightly buried in the sand. But there is plans to get that out shortly. But the seaweed level is being kept under control, and it's working very well. Other than that, it seems to be going strength to strength, and yeah, it's going very well.
Thank you for that. Councillor PC Will.
Because we would have got funding. Regarding the seaweed, in 2 places on the island, if my memory, it was Ventnor and the Bay area, I believe. And the report come back, correct me if I'm wrong, that our seaweed, unlike Scotland's got a grant and managed to recycle that. We couldn't, because like the trains, it no, the wrong, we couldn't invest in that. We have been through that process of trying to I don't know if you've got any more to say on that.
Yeah, probably, yeah, that was very well remembered. That was quite correct. And of course, as Jonathan alluded to earlier, there is a big mix of sand and other debris that comes with lifting that seaweed out of the harbour, and also the cost of transportation and sealed units with that transportation is even more expensive than it was. So it has gone to farmers in the past, and it has been offered to farmers in the past, but not of late, because it doesn't make economic sense to do that, really. And as you said, it's not really the kind of seaweed that they want. Sand and so on, it's not as good fertilizer.
Thank you for that. Colleagues, other questions? Take that one as noted. So it's a verbal report next on the safety management.
Prior to the last couple of committee meetings, we had a get well plan. The David's DPS last visits, where we were compliant. He asked us to have a ongoing plan of things to do at both. We sort of finalised that in the last couple of months, the actual plan. I think we submitted it to the last committee for authorisation. But I've just got a couple of updates really on that, just for interest. One of the items on there was that we needed to have our first user group meeting for Ventnor. Had a well-established user group meeting. Managed to get that meeting for Friday is the first one. So just another tick off of our safety code visits, my bit that we weren't compliant with. We had on there with regards to the follow investigating or the arrangement for the collection of fees at the folly is due to expire, and we've negotiated that with our water taxis with regards to collecting the fees for our pontoons, visitors, and also we have investigated the joining of one of our pontoons with the folly pontoon to make Walkershaw's. Progress that to the fact that we've now submitted some information to Green King, Ventnor Green. Personally, I don't think it will happen, because I don't think Green King are particularly keen on it, but it's something that we put into the plan to try and do. We did get a small amount of capital monies last year to do the work on the pontoons, and a little increase on our budget. You'd also put in there investigating the upgrading of the facilities at Newport, with regard to the hospitality facilities, and we had a capital bid in for this year for that used. I think it's probably just worth noting that we will have to do something over the next couple of years, because we can't continue to offer facilities we've got for people coming in just of no. Port Marine Safety Code, which I think you probably remember David updated us on last time, is changing slightly very soon. Some additional work to do with regard to facilities within our jurisdiction. We haven't gone any further with it, because I think towards the summertime they're looking to keep putting back the implementation of the new Port Marine Safety Code this year. So it's a bit of work that we'll have to do then. And the last bit, the one that we've just discussed with regards to the removal of seaweed at Ventnor, again, we're progressing with that. I think going forward on these committees, we'll add that as an item to give to you each time, just like we used to do with the Get Well plan.
Colleagues, any questions, Mr. Edmonds? Councillor Love?
Yeah, and I'm just trying to catch up. I mean, it occurs to me that in order to accumulate, you have to speculate. So you have to have good facilities. And I think, having been a sailor myself for a long, long time, if you were to connect the folly pontoons with that would bring in more business, a lot more business, I think. Is why moor out in there and have to pay the water taxes if you can connect to directly onto the folly. I'm sure that that would generate income. We have to speculate. So I'd be kind of interested to know what the figures and things were on that. I know it's all dependent on Green King, but is there an alternative to Green King?
And Green King have the Walkershore part of it. So that the Walkershore part of it is part of the pub. Green King also have their own pontoons, and so do Cowes Harbour Commission, as well as us. So ours is quite a small part of it up there. So it's the pontoon we've got that's closest to the Walkershore pontoon that we want to join, and it's only the length of one. We've got the money to be able to do it, but it would only create a Walkershore for one of our pontoons.
But as I was saying, I think we need to think big. We need to think about, can we extend that pontoon? Because that's where I think the money is. I used to hate coming up there in my boat and having to get on a water taxi and being reliant on them. But the significant pull would be a connection of let's say, a significant pontoon running upwards, I'm assuming, from the folly to create income generation. You've got to speculate in order to, and I'm not saying that's about you. We as a council have got to speculate if we want to create income. And I think that that's quite possible.
It was something that we looked into, and for the same reason that you just stated, as the pier and the pontoon that is joined to land at the moment is owned and operated by Green King, and also all of the land that is Green King's, we can't move forward without their agreement to join in with us. So at the moment, we've pressed it up. We've got, we put a capital bid in for the section we need to join them together. But without Green King being on board, we can't force them to let us join to them. So just waiting for their comeback.
Surely we have a right of way, it's established right of way.
Yeah. Questions are absolutely fine. That's what we're here for. Councillor Redrup.
Forgive me again, guys. I do wonder the logic in that. Because the pontoon that you're talking is a residence pontoon at present time. So if we was going to use that as a visitor's pontoon, they have to be moved. But it also begs the question, the two gaps you've got around there, one by the Green King entrance, which you're planning to close, and that will leave you the middle one by the dinghy park. And from experience, I know that it's difficult trying to negotiate that entrance to park on the inside of that. A few times you nip in from Green King's side to negotiate the and you are limited, severely limited, draft on the inside out. It might not be the cash cow that we're thinking it. But I do accept it in the summer over themselves on cows and I do question it.
So part of the agreement with Folly Ventures about the visitors' pontoons, we are adjusting them slightly. So East A, which is the next pontoon to Green King's, the channel side of that will become visitors. And the existing visitors' pontoon, the channel side will remain visitors and permanents back the other side of it. So at the moment they've got 120 metre pontoon with both sides, but they can only raft out on one side of that. once it changes, they're going to have 120 metres channel side on the existing visitors pontoon and 60 metres on East A. But they can raft on that as well. The gap you're talking between Green King and East A is about 14 metres, so it's not a majorly large gap, and that's without any boats moored to the end of the Green King. So it is very slight, and the bigger gap is next to Medina Mariner's compound where the slipway is. So we will lose the use of one gap, but I think having the advantage of having, we would end up with 70 metres of premium visitors that we can charge more for because it's a walk ashore. It's probably worth losing the narrow gap.
Can I just make one recommendation for future? Because I'm still fairly new, it would be really helpful if at every meeting we had a map of the harbour so that we can go, that's there, that's there, that's there, and that's there. Because I don't actually, whilst I've used the, the folly for my boat previously, I wouldn't know what A, B, C, D, E, F and G is at this time, but I just think it might be helpful for the future if at all these meetings we could have, because then I would be able to see exactly what you're talking about. Otherwise, I've got no idea, really. Sorry.
I'm sure we can facilitate that in some way, physically or projected up in some way or whatever. But you're quite right. These may not be things, those of us who don't sail may be even less aware of these things. What strikes me is some of this discussion, actually, given that we're moving into the new committee system from the middle of May, actually, well, probably somewhat outwitted the terms of reference of this committee. Doesn't mean we can't talk about it, but stuff to feed into the service committee that will look at the overall sides of the council's well, the whole harbour regeneration side of things as much, but also that business side of things. I wouldn't want to guess which service committee exactly. The regen one, there is one that will cover regen, but also policy, finance and resources, I'm sure, will take a view on that as well. But it's useful to have had a discussion about that. It shouldn't be just a passive committee. Some active thinking as well is going to be very, very helpful. But if you're otherwise content, I shall move us on to the next item. We'll take as noted that report. Item 8 is members' question time. Does any member have a question? One has been sent in. Your question's out, Councillor Peasy Wilcox. Okay. In which case we move on to item 9. But before I take that, could I just have an explanation as to why it is desirable to have item 9, given we have had sight of the contents? Is it sufficient? Does it sufficiently come? Can you elaborate without obviously giving anything away at this stage?
Yeah, thank you, Chair. Yeah, so under the Port Marine Safety Code, we're required to have a designated person, and it assists in that. What my colleagues will say about the progress we've made with having this from the staffing's been a few years now. Harbour Revision Order has also helped, so it just ties up all the, and it's code and guidance rather than strict law, but it all helps as good evidence and good code to have these things in place.
And specifically, why is it that we can't take item 10 in open session? What is it about that you feel? At this stage, the identification of a person at this stage. Okay, I'm content with that. I just at some point that person may well be identified to us all, but okay. In which case, I'll move from the chair that under section 100A, subsection 4 of the Local Government Act 1972, the public and press be excluded from the meeting for the following item of business, namely agenda item 10, on the grounds that there is likely to be disclosure of exempt information as defined in paragraph 1 of part 1 of schedule 12A of the Act, and in all circumstances of the case, the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. Do I have a second to that, Councillor PC Wilcox? And I'll put it to the meeting. Do we, those in favour of that motion? To show. I think all 5 hands went up at that point, in which case, Rufus, thank you for coming. we look forward to your report on our business. And we'll be turning off the recording. Take one more look up the public gallery just to see.